Michael Gilbert is professor of law at the University of Virginia School of Law in Charlottesville. He joins us live from there. Michael, good to see you and appreciate your time. Hope you're continuing to keep safe. I know you're thinking as the president will probably never actually officially concede, right?
Well, that's my prediction. It's hard to say for sure, but based on his behavior over the last 4 years, it seems unlikely to me that he will make a gracious exit. I think he will exit. I think he will give up soon, but I find an actual concession somewhat unlikely.
Okay, which would be extremely impolitic, but actually would not be illegal at all. I mean, he can do what he wants. At the same time, though, the flip side is the process continues, the legal challenges, et cetera. There's a growing consensus that none of these cases are A, going to make much difference at all to the final count and tally and the outcome, and B, and probably this is probably more important, is they're never going to make it up to the Supreme Court. Do you agree?
That seems right to me. It's hard to forecast the future, but at the moment, the path to the Supreme Court does not appear to be open. The Trump campaign and its surrogates filed a number of lawsuits over the last week that attempted in one way or another to challenge or put the brakes on the election and the vote counting. Mostly those claims failed, and even when they had successes, they were very minor. For example, in the state of Pennsylvania, the Trump campaign claimed that they did not have sufficient access to the vote counting process. They brought a lawsuit. They succeeded, but the effect of this was to move their observers from about 10 feet away from the vote counting to about 6 feet away. These are small bore lawsuits, and they were never likely to lead to any change in the outcome.
Michael, ultimately, are these lawsuits just noise, or are they going to materially distract from the transition and the task of governance for President-elect Biden and his team?
Well, many of the lawsuits from last week, I think, were noise in the sense that smart lawyers who looked at the facts and looked at the claims could have predicted that they were not going anywhere. It seems they were designed, for example, just to prevent the race from being called in this state or that state, just to slow things down. Now, the president, as you've already indicated, has said over the weekend that he plans to file more claims beginning Monday morning. It's Sunday here in the evening in the United States. I don't know what those claims will look like. Maybe if he has something and has some facts to show that the road forward will look more plausible. But right now it looks mostly like distraction. The cases look very weak, and maybe it'll have the effect of slowing down the transition. But my impression is that the Biden team is proceeding full speed ahead. They're not waiting for a concession from the president.
And Michael, just to clarify for all of us, despite last week's claim by President Trump and his team that litigation could end up in the Supreme Court, that's very unlikely to happen because these are matters that relate to the count at state level, not federal level. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct. In the U.S., we have a very decentralized system. The vote counting, the election administration happens state by state. It's not the federal government that runs it. Now, if there is some problem of one kind or another with respect to a state's vote, you can sue in federal court, but you don't start in the U.S. Supreme Court. You typically start at the bottom in our federal district courts, they're trial courts, and then you have to move your way up. It's possible, given the stakes, that things could move quickly and we could get to the Supreme Court fast. But for anything like that to happen, the Trump campaign has to come up with a plausible argument with facts to back it up, and that looks like, if it proceeded, could change the election outcome. And so far, they haven't presented that. And I'd just like to underscore one point. The president has been hammering home this message that the election has been stolen. But the problem is he and his campaign have yet to show any facts of any kind supporting that. There just doesn't appear to be really any fraud at all, let alone any kind of widespread fraud that could have stolen the election.
Right. That said, Michael, do you think the Electoral College system has merit? Does it have integrity? Or do you think by 2024 it should be reformed?
Well, the Electoral College is part of the U.S. Constitution. We've had it since the Constitution was adopted in the late 1700s. So with respect to reform, I think it's off the table. The only way to change the Electoral College system is to amend our Constitution, and that's exceedingly difficult. You need supermajorities in both houses of our Congress. Just not going to get that in this political environment. The Republicans have benefited from the Electoral College over the last 20 years. They've won the presidency a couple times through the Electoral College, even if they lose the popular vote. And they're not going to want to give up that advantage. So you would need bipartisan support to amend the Constitution, and I don't think you're going to get it.